Dear students, today I will discuss tax planning in respect of amalgamation. So first we should be clear about meaning of amalgamation from income tax point of view. Section 2I 1B has explained amalgamation in relation to the companies. It means merger of one or more companies with another company or the merger of two or more companies to form one company in such a manner that all the properties of the amalgamating company immediately before the amalgamation becomes the property of the amalgamated company. Similarly, all the liabilities of the amalgamating company immediately before the amalgamation become the liability of amalgamated company by virtue of amalgamation. And shareholders holding not less than 75% in value of shares in amalgamating company before the amalgamation become shareholders of the amalgamated company by the virtue of amalgamation. So what does it imply? So we have to take into consideration three conditions: all properties, all liabilities, and 75% of shareholders. So it means, let's suppose in case a property of a company is sold to another company and such another company merges such purchased property into its own property. Will we call it amalgamation? No, because other conditions have not been fulfilled. Let's take another example. When affairs of a company have been wound up due to liquidation and another company gets a property of such liquidated company, will it amount to amalgamation? The answer will be no. Again, because other two conditions have not been satisfied. Similarly, in case of takeover bid, that is an effort to purchase the shares of a company with the object to have control over the company, will also not amount to amalgamation. So for amalgamation, the conditions are all the properties, all the liabilities, and 75% of shareholders. Now, what are the parties to amalgamation? There are two parties. For example, Brook Bond India Limited amalgamated with Hindustan Lever Limited. So Brook Bond Limited is the amalgamating company, the company who is transferring, and the Hindustan Lever Limited will be amalgamated company. The company which so merge is amalgamating, and the company with which they merge is known as amalgamated company. Now, in order to encourage genuine mergers, amalgamations in public interest, the central government has provided many incentives under Income Tax Act 1961, which we can categorize as tax concessions to amalgamating company, tax concessions to amalgamated company, tax concessions to shareholders of amalgamating company. So first we will discuss tax concessions to amalgamating company. First point is no capital gain tax on transfer of capital assets to Indian company. In general, when a closing company transfers its capital assets to another company, the closing company is liable to calculate its capital gain or loss on such transfer. And if it happens to be capital gain, they will have to pay tax also. But in case of amalgamation, if all the requirements have been fulfilled of amalgamation as Income Tax Act, this will not be amount as transfer, and there will be no. So if an asset is transferred there will be no capital gain tax. But one thing to be taken into consideration, this is in case of Indian company only. It means if an asset is transferred in scheme of amalgamation to a foreign company, then above exemption from capital gain tax shall not be available. Second point, no capital gain tax on transfer of shares held in Indian company by amalgamating foreign company. So it's a case of two foreign companies. When a foreign amalgamating company transfers its investment in shares held in Indian company to amalgamated foreign company, in scheme of amalgamation, it shall not be regarded as transfer and no capital gain will be calculated. And there are conditions also, two conditions: at least 25% of shareholders of amalgamating foreign company continue to remain shareholders of amalgamated foreign company, and such transfer does not attract tax on capital gain in the country in which amalgamating company is incorporated. Now, third point is no capital gain tax on transfer of capital asset by a banking institution. So, where in scheme of amalgamation, a banking company transfers any capital asset to banking institution, so no capital gain tax will be calculated. Last point, no capital gain tax on transfer of capital asset being a share of a foreign company if certain conditions are fulfilled. So, where a foreign amalgamating company transfer in a scheme of amalgamation a capital asset being its any share which it derives directly or indirectly its value substantially from the shares of an Indian company. So, it shall not be regarded as transfer of capital asset, and conditions again same, at least 25% of the shareholders of amalgamating foreign company continue to remain shareholders of amalgamated foreign company, and such transfer does not attract tax on capital gains in the country in which amalgamating company is incorporated. Now, we shift to tax concessions to amalgamated company. First, apportionment of depreciation between amalgamating company and amalgamated company. So, what we will do? We will calculate deduction of depreciation at prescribed rate as if the amalgamation had not taken place. Now, such deduction shall be apportioned between the amalgamating company and amalgamated company in the ratio of number of days such assets was used by them. So, proportion, what is the criteria of apportion between the two companies? Number of days the asset is being held. Second point, capital expenditure on scientific research. So, where an amalgamating company sells or transfers to the amalgamated Indian company any asset representing expenditure of a capital nature on scientific research. So, what we will do? The unabsorbed capital expenditure on scientific research shall be carried forward by the amalgamated Indian company in the same manner as in case of amalgamating company. In case any asset acquired for scientific research is transferred in some later years by amalgamated company, then gain or loss shall be taxed in the hands of amalgamated company. Now, third point, expenditure on telecommunication license. Again, in this case, the unamortized capital expenditure on license shall be written off by the amalgamated company in the same manner as in case of amalgamating company for the remaining number of years. Next point is amortization of preliminary expenses. So, where an undertaking which is entitled to deduction under section 35D is transferred in a scheme of amalgamation by amalgamating company to amalgamated company, then deduction shall continue to be available to the amalgamated company for remaining number of years. Amortization of expenditure in case of amalgamation. So, again in this case, where an assessee, it's a Indian company incurs any expenditure on or after 1st April 1999 for the purpose of amalgamation, the assessee shall be allowed a deduction of an amount equal to 1/5 of such expenditure for 5 successive previous year, beginning with the previous year in which amalgamation take place. So, such expenditures will be amortized in 5 years. So, 1/5 amount in each year. Next is amortization of expenditure incurred under voluntary retirement scheme. Again, same point, 1/5 expenditure is allowed for in equal installments for each of the succeeding years. So, then next is expenditure on prospecting minerals. So, where an undertaking of an Indian company which is entitled to above deduction is transferred before the expiry of the period of 10 years to another company in scheme of amalgamation. No deduction will be available in case of amalgamating company for the previous year in which amalgamation takes place. And amalgamated company shall be allowed to claim unwritten off expenditure during the remaining number of years. Now, capital expenditure on promotion of family planning. Again, in this case, 5 equal installments will be allowed capital expenditure. So, the undertaking which is entitled to deduction under this section, if it is in a scheme of amalgamation, it is amalgamated to another company. So, the amalgamated company shall continue to be, benefit will be available to the amalgamated company for remaining number of years. Then provisions relating to carry forward and set off of accumulated loss and unabsorbed depreciation in certain cases of amalgamation. So, in case this is a certain specified cases of amalgamation, like amalgamation of a company running an industrial undertaking or ship or hotel within another company, or it's a case of banking company or one or more public sector companies or companies engaged in the business of operation of aircraft with one or more public sector companies. So, it is a specific case. So, in case there are certain conditions for amalgamating company, that is that company has been engaged in the business for 3 or more years and has held continuously as on the date of amalgamation at least 3/4 of book value of fixed assets held by it 2 years prior to the date of amalgamation. So, these are the conditions for amalgamating company. And there are certain conditions for amalgamated company also, that it holds continuously for a minimum period of 5 years from the date of amalgamation at least 3/4 of book value of fixed assets of amalgamating company, and continues the business of amalgamating company for a minimum period of 5 years from the date of amalgamation. So, amalgamating company के लिए भी ये requirement थी 4 years के लिए, and amalgamated company the requirement is of minimum period of 5 years. So, tax treatment, the accumulated loss and unabsorbed depreciation of amalgamating company shall be deemed to be the loss, or as the case may be, allowance for depreciation of amalgamated company for the previous year in which amalgamation was affected. So, other provisions of this act relating to set off and carry forward of the loss or allowance for depreciation shall apply accordingly. So, next we have amalgamation and deduction under section ATI A, IB, IC and IE. So, we are undertaking claiming deduction under section ATI A, ATI B, ATI C or ATI E is transferred to another Indian company in a scheme of amalgamation. As per the Income Tax Act, the deduction shall be available to amalgamated company for the unexpired period as if no such amalgamation takes place. So, in nutshell, we have seen that the benefit has been given in all cases to amalgamated company for the remaining number of the years. Now, tax concessions for the shareholders of amalgamating company. So, in this case, as we know that shareholders of amalgamating company are to get payment either in the form of cash or shares of amalgamated company. As such, this may lead to any profit or loss to such shareholders on transfer of the shares of amalgamating company. As per normal taxation provisions, such profit is liable to tax under the head capital gains in the hands of shareholders. However, under the existing Income Tax Act, for certain concessions have been given to shareholders. So, first point is exemption from capital gains on transfer of shares, section 47. Subsection 7. So, where a shareholder of amalgamating company transfer his such shares or shares in a scheme of amalgamation, then it will not be regarded as transfer. Two conditions are there. Transfer is made in consideration of the allotment to him of any share or shares in amalgamated company, and amalgamated company is an Indian company. So, the shareholder must receive the entire consideration in the form of shares of the amalgamated company alone. So, if along with the shares or shares in the amalgamated company, the shareholders are allowed to bonds or debentures or partly cash in consideration of the transfer of his shares or shares in amalgamating company. The benefit of this section shall not be allowed. So once again, benefit will be allowed only if shares have been given. And next part is the cost of shares received under the transfer as mentioned above. The cost of shares allotted in amalgamated company shall remain same as was for the shares held in amalgamating company.